Hi, my name is Leah Christiani, and I'm in the political science department. I study the way that people think about politics, and in particular, the role that biases like racism and sexism play. My book project that I'm working on right now looks at how people respond to negative, explicit racial appeals. This means basically when politicians are using hostile, racist rhetoric to derogate minority groups. And what I basically find, largely through surveys and survey experiments, is that when white Americans feel threatened, when they feel like they're losing their dominance in society, or that their power is being diminished in some way, that activates their prejudice and makes them more willing to tolerate this kind of rhetoric. This is obviously a pretty heavy and depressing topic, but what I'm hoping is that understanding these dynamics can diminish the role that they play in future elections and in America going forward, especially as we continue to diversify as a nation. Have you ever wondered how political polling works? In a perfect world, if we wanted to know how Americans felt about one particular issue, we would just ask them at the exact same time and get our answer. But that's not realistic in terms of time or money. So instead, we have to ask a smaller group of people and draw an inference from there. This smaller group of people ideally would be a random subset of the American population. But again, this can be hard. There's no central database of all Americans with their contact information listed just readily available to researchers. So we have to find people either through online panels, telephone registries, or voter files. This is where the first issue can come up. If this sample doesn't look like the broader population, it could skew our results. Other issues can crop up too. People can lie in response to our questions. Questions can be misleading or lead people to a certain answer, even if that's not their true belief. And questions can also just be confusing. This is all not to say, though, that political polling is totally broken. Polls can give us important information. We just have to remember three things. One, never take one poll as the end-all, be-all to give you all the information. Instead, you want to look at an aggregation of polls and the average that they produce. Look at the website 538 for an example of this. Two, look at the way the questions were worded. Were they guiding people into a certain direction, leading them to a particular answer, or maybe discouraging them from telling the truth? And three, look at who was in the poll. Look at the actual sampling methodologies used by researchers. Hunter's students have such vast diversity in terms of where they've grown up, sometimes countries of origin that they have attachments to, and this brings a really unique and fresh perspective to American politics. I've taught in other more homogenous populations, and you just don't get the kind of discussions that you get here, and you don't get the kind of insights, frankly, that you get from Hunter students. Willing to listen to others, which is also very unique in this world today. They're willing to actually listen to others who they might not agree with and still feel confident enough to voice their own opinion. We want to be respectful of the way that we're voicing what we think, but we want to make sure that we're able to have these conversations in frank ways, because that's the only way we're going to be able to tackle a lot of these issues that are sensitive that we're dealing with in the US, like racism, sexism, and other forms of bias. I love hearing the connections that they bring in from the way things work in a country of origin that they might have attachments to, or other cultures that they might be way more familiar with than me. And so I feel like it's really co-educating and co-learning type environment where I can learn from my students just as much as they learn from me.